This week we head to the skies with BioShock Infinite, chat to Christopher Sabat from Dragon Ball Z, and step back in time to the year that was 1991. This is Player Attack. But first, the latest gaming news, and there is a new Batman on the way. No, we're not talking about Injustice: Gods Among Us, which is out this week, pitting the Dark Knight against a whole stack of other DC superheroes and villains. Instead, the Caped Crusader is set to star in another of his own games, with Batman Arkham Origins set to arrive on the usual platforms in late October. It's another prequel storyline set several years before either Arkham Asylum or Arkham City, and you play as a young and unrefined Batman facing a defining moment in his early career. Another new one due out a little sooner than that is Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, which blipped our radars on April Fool's Day and was pretty swiftly discarded as just another joke from Ubisoft. However, 2 weeks later we're starting to realise this kick-ass cyber shooter is the real deal. Do not adjust your set, this one takes place in an 80s VHS version of 2007 in the wake of Vietnam War II.
A new breed of renegade soldier is born. Part man, part machine, all cyber commando. Sergeant Rex Colt is leading the battle between good and evil, as it's never been fought before. He's on a desperate mission to bring down a battalion of ruthless killer cyborgs and save the world.
You play as Sergeant Rex Cold, a Mark IV cyber commando fighting against a rogue cyborg army. 2 extra good points: this is a completely standalone expansion, so you won't need Far Cry 3 to play, and Rex Colt is voiced by Terminator's Michael Biehn. Now, something else a little bit retro, Rockstar Games has teamed up with Spotify and iTunes to post up the radio stations from Grand Theft Auto 4, episodes from Liberty City, San Andreas, Vice City, and more, all available right now for streaming direct to your PC. There's East Coast hip-hop, Europop, disco classics, and everything in between. You could say it's both a little bit country and a little bit rock and roll. But while those songs are popping up online, others are disappearing. Rock band publisher Harmonix has announced that a number of older legacy DLC songs will start disappearing from the game's online store as limited licenses start to expire. The first casualties include tracks from the Metallica Pack 01, released in November 2007. Ride the Lightning and Justice for All and Blackened have all been pulled from the Rock Band store, but if they're already in your library, you should still be good to go. A more confusing disappearance sees 2K Games apparently trying to change history. The official website for XCOM, the tactical shooter reimagining of XCOM, has been taken offline. And in case you thought that might just have been someone hitting the wrong button, may we also point out that early trailers for the FPS, released at both E3 2010 and 2011, have been made private, effectively removing them from the public eye as well. We haven't really heard much from the game since it was revealed back in 2010, and many were speculating the new XCOM had been cancelled in the wake of last year's smash hit, XCOM Enemy Unknown. However, new domain registrations suggest that might not be the case. Keep an eye out for a game named The Bureau, featuring a government agency and set in 1962. It's also been a long time since we've heard anything from the team behind America's Army, but that is all set to change in 2013 with beta signups open right now for America's Army Proving Grounds, the 4th major title in the franchise. Designed as a recruitment tool for the United States Armed Forces, America's Army has been around since 2002 and, from all accounts, has been far more successful than its developers could ever have hoped for. With this week's release of The Knife of Dunwall, the second batch of DLC for Dishonored, Bethesda Softworks Vice President Pete Hines has promised the company is shaping up for a really exciting 2013. Even though 2012 was hardly a bad one for the publisher, you can expect considerably more noise this time around, and Hines isn't just talking about the impending release of The Elder Scrolls Online and plenty of new content for Dishonored. Names currently being thrown around as rumoured releases include a potential Fallout sequel, an official reveal for Doom 4, a resuscitation of Prey 2, more stuff from the Dishonored saga, or perhaps something completely different. To keep up to date with the latest gaming news, head to playerattack.com. But for now, stick around, we've got plenty more still to come. might know them for having all the latest games and a stack of retro goodies, but take a look at some of this great new gear from Game Traders. They've got new collectible weapons in stock, including a number of swords from The Hobbit, like Thorin Oakenshield's mighty Orcrist and the tiny but mighty Sting, as carried by Bilbo Baggins. We're not talking plastic imitations here, folks. These are official metal replica blades. If you're into swords of a somewhat different style, Game Traders also has Finn's Golden Sword of Battle from Adventure Time to check out, as well as this Changing Face Deluxe figure. And for fans of the regular show on Cartoon Network, then quick for plenty of Rigby and Mordecai figurines and these talking plushies. So what are you waiting for? Get into Game Traders. There's more in store, including games, anime, collectibles, clothes, books, toys, DVDs, accessories, and, well, more.
Everyone's sick of shooters, we all keep saying. It's almost industry standard for players and critics to roll their eyes at the annual reveal of a new FPS. But occasionally a game will come along that keeps the core shooter gameplay, but does something interesting with it. In 2007, that was BioShock. The game spliced solid shooting mechanics with an interesting world, the city of Rapture built under the sea on a foundation of objectivism, in an attempt to subvert the conventions of traditional FPS games. The "would you kindly" scenario is one of the medium's best known and most eloquent comments on player control and choice. BioShock Infinite is the third game in the series, swapping its setting from sea to sky. Despite the drastic change in aesthetic, Infinite definitely feels like a BioShock game, refining the defining elements of the series. As such, expect a spectacle-spotted shooter game with solid combat mechanics, wrapped in a unique world that's built on a foundation of philosophy, and explored through the stories of several compelling characters. The setup is as big a cliche as they come. There's a girl locked away in a tower, and you take the role of the boy riding in to rescue her. It sounds routine enough, but don't fret, it develops into something far more interesting. You are Booker DeWitt, sent to the flying city of Columbia to guide Elizabeth safely back to New York to wipe away a debt. But of course, it's not as simple as that. Zachary Hale Comstock, father of Elizabeth, builder of Columbia and self-proclaimed prophet, has declared Booker a false shepherd, looking to lead their little lamb astray, and the residents will have none of that. Booker is greeted with a utopian society upon arrival, but after a little bit of exploration, splits in the seams begin to show. In terms of social values, Comstock's City of Columbia is almost the polar opposite of Andrew Ryan's City of Rapture, but both capture the nostalgic wish to return to a simpler, optimistic time, and contrast that with a deep sense of dread and foreboding. Other comparisons are far more direct. The original BioShock opened with the player entering a lighthouse and riding a bathysphere down to the bottom of the sea. Infinite opens at that same lighthouse some 50 years earlier, with an opposite journey that flings players into the sky to meet the airborne City of Columbia. The game is full of mystery. We don't fully know Booker's intentions or the details of his debt, or exactly why or how Elizabeth can open tears in reality. But all that is revealed as the story unfolds. Since your job is to rescue her, Elizabeth follows the player for most of the game. It makes sense story-wise, but mechanically, she doesn't really do anything. She functions as essentially one long escort mission, one of the pet peeves that gamers are most vocal about. But the developers are obviously familiar with that infamy, and have taken the liberty to ensure her constant presence isn't a constant source of frustration, like so many other AI companions. It's handled somewhat cheaply though. Elizabeth is welcome because she stays out of the way, rather than contributing much to the combat. She spends most of her time hiding from enemies or crouching behind cover. Sure, she'll toss you the odd bundle of ammo, health or salts, but on those occasions when she's not around, her absence hardly registers. Outside of the narrative context, she doesn't really need protecting. Enemies inexplicably ignore her even when she's mere meters away. It's a small issue though, and one you'll likely forget as the combat grows to be a hell of a lot of fun. It starts off feeling pretty typical. You use a range of pistols, shotguns and rifles to shoot dudes, and complement that with the franchise's signature elemental attacks, this time called Vigors. These potions grant various powers like fire, electricity, water, telekinesis, which spice up the combat with spectacle and strategy. Aerial rails called skylines weave around Columbia, and its residents, including the player, can use them to zip around via personal grappling devices. Dropping from those onto enemies below is an effective way to initiate combat with a surprise attack. That's not all your skyhook is good for though. It has a deadly second application as a melee weapon, and the game wastes no time in getting you to try using it to finish enemies in gory executions. As all these elements are gradually expanded and strategic combinations open up, the firefights thankfully become more welcome as they become more prevalent during the last third of the game. Excessive violence can clash a little with the narrative though. It does fit in the context of an aggressive upheaval of the social classes, but you will kill a lot of people. Of course, it is still a shooter game, and the pulse of the Unreal Engine under the surface is all too familiar. But it does serve to create a familiar framework of solid mechanics, with a BioShock flavoured twist, and builds on that with an entirely unique world that is an absolute pleasure to explore. It might not be the most elegant handling of the subject and the themes, but BioShock Infinite is definitely one of the most interesting, unique, beautiful, and entertaining games of this generation.
To celebrate the launch of Player Attack on Aurora, we are sharing some of these fantastic Turtle Beach headsets with you. The very impressive Call of Duty Black Ops 2 Air Force Kilo combines premium stereo sound with the very snazzy orange and black colour scheme we know and love from the world's biggest FPS franchise. With independent volume controls mounted directly on the cables, you can adjust the audio to your preference, so you'll never miss a chat just because there happens to be an explosion going on. All you have to do to win your very own headset is to head to playerattack.com. Follow the links to the Turtle Beach competition, fill out your name and contact details, and enter the secret keyword, which is on your screen right now. The competition is open to anyone in Australia and runs all the way up until May 10th, with the winner announced on Player Attack on Friday, May 17th. For the full terms and conditions, see our website.
Hi, I'm Christopher Sabat from Player Attack. I just got the job now, apparently. No, wait. Sorry, this isn't my microphone. This is yours. You're Jessica, right? Hi, Jessica. How long have you been interviewing me?
About 5 seconds, and it's going really well so far. I like it.
Good. Do you have any other plans to interview me further?
I was hoping I would be able to ask you some questions, but I'm not sure if that feels a bit weird at the moment.
I'll have to ask my producer. All right, he's giving you the go-ahead. Please, after you.
Why, thank you. So, Christopher Sabat, why should people know who you are?
No one should, honestly. Actually, if they've ever been in prison or if they've ever committed a crime, they would know me. Otherwise, most people don't. Well, okay, unless you've maybe watched a show called Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball Z, it's this adorable little Japanese cartoon about kids who hug each other. Oh wait, no, I mean, sorry. They fight each other and then become really angry and then transform and fight each other some more. That's it. I play the character Vegeta and Piccolo, and I play Yamcha and Mr. Popo and Kami and all the dragons and Gaz and Mez and Raccoon and Berter and Jace and pretty much everyone in the entire Frieza saga. I spent the beginning of my career in voice acting working for Funimation Productions, the people who make Dragon Ball Z. And after a while, I realized after working on some of the Dragon Ball Z video games, I realized that as much as I love anime, I love video games even more. Video games were my passion. I grew up on them. My dad was kind of an early gamer. He used to buy us all the old systems. Like, he brought us the first Atari and the Atari 2600, and then he bought us like an Intellivision and a Coleco and a Nintendo and a Intellivision and like an Odyssey, you name it. He bought us all of these systems, I think partially because he wanted to watch us play it. So I realized that's what my passion was. So I started a company called Okratron 5000. We provide like voices and music and sound effects for the video game industry. We're based in Dallas, and the last project we worked on was Borderlands 2, which is a pretty cool title.
Which some people might be familiar with, coming out of Gearbox Software, and there is actually new DLC coming out for that very soon.
It's an amazing, amazing set of DLC that's coming out. It's been a joy working with those guys. The writer, particularly for Borderlands 2, his name is Anthony Birch. He does a show called Hey Ash, What You Playing? Oh my God, he is the best freaking writer ever. He brought so much life to the game, and he's really fun to work with. In fact, directing a game like that is sort of easy when Anthony's around, because he's like, oh yeah, actually it needs to be like this, it needs to be like this, and you can't argue with him because he's always right.
So I read somewhere that you specialize in kind of cranky male voices. Is this correct?
Yes, I do. Every voice I mostly get cast on is either some dude who's like depressed or pissed off or hates everybody, or doesn't really want to be with the rest of the group but kind of begrudgingly does it. Those characters like Zoro in One Piece, or Kurogane in an anime called Tsubasa Chronicles. I generally play dudes with big muscles or can shoot fire out of their hands, that kind of stuff.
Obviously based totally on reality.
Yeah, most of the character models of the characters I play are obviously based on my physique.
So that's what you've been doing now. The important question that everybody wants to know, how the hell do you get into a role like this? How do you just wake up one day and go, I'm good at voices?
No, most likely you don't. The era of like really, really lucky breaks is almost coming to an end. Like, I was very, very lucky to have gotten the role that I got. I was working as a DJ on the radio. I was working I'm just living in a college town, going back to school to study at the University of North Texas to study radio, television, film. And I got a call out of nowhere from some friend of mine. Well, actually, it wasn't a call. At the time, it was a page on a pager, and I had to call them back on a cell phone or what was that, payphone, whatever those were. Called them back and they said, hey, we're bringing this Japanese cartoon to America. Would you be interested in auditioning for it? And I didn't know what it was. I mean, all I knew is that it involved voices and it involved cartoons. So I said, sure. Auditioned, got the role of Yamcha and Igor. And then they later asked me if I'd come back and help cast and direct the Dragon Ball Z series. And at that time, I had no idea how successful that show was going to be, or that 12 years later, I'd still be working on it, or I'd be in Australia talking about it. I mean, come on. It's ridiculous. And it's still happening. We just got 69 more episodes of Dragon Ball Z Kai that are on the next list of things to do. So we've been pretty busy. There's no one way to get into voice acting, but when I tell people that ask for advice on what to do, I tell them to focus on being an actor. And imagine like voice acting these days being just like the bullseye on the target. And so shoot as many darts around that as possible. Work in production or get involved with film or be an audio guy, be an audio engineer. All those things that can get you around the thing you like to do, because sometimes you discover that maybe voice acting is something that sounds neat, but the stuff that really makes you click is some of the behind the scenes stuff. And a lot of those people meet the right people to eventually attempt to be a voice actor and see if they like to do it. So it's a good route to do it. Plus, even if you are a working voice actor, it takes a long time before you can be a voice actor that just does voice work. You have to be as diverse as you possibly can. I work on music, we do sound design, I manage a studio and stuff like that too. So I encourage anyone who's interested in being a voice actor to do everything possible to be as rounded of a human being as possible. Because if you're so myopic and you think, I just want to be a voice actor, that leaves a lot of room for error and disappointment.
Jimmy the Geek here in 1991. The big news this year, Nintendo throwing their long-awaited first punch into the 16-bit console arena. The game system took nearly a year to make it over to the US after its Japanese equivalent, the Super Famicom, was released. The new system, simply titled the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, boasts 16-bit processor, a whopping 128 kilobytes of DRAM, and a Sony sound chip. Naturally, everyone is asking what the new games will be. We know that a new Super Mario game, taking several elements from last year's Super Mario Bros. 3, is almost certain, as it's being packaged with the system. Unconfirmed reports suggest that Mario may ride a dinosaur. Also rumored are a new Final Fantasy game and a new Legend of Zelda. The game is competing with the Sega Mega Drive or Genesis across the pond, and which was released 2 years ago. Almost in retaliation, Sega have swung back, launching their new mascot-driven franchise to compete with Mario. The game, based around speed, will star Sonic, a blue hedgehog with an edgy teenage attitude, and will chronicle his battles with the evil Dr. Robotnik. Subtle environmental messages litter the game world, which seem to have had a lot of effort put into it. Bright colors and a stellar soundtrack by Masato Nakamura of J-pop band Dreams Come True all point to Sega wanting to make sure this is a flagship title for the Mega Drive, with a port also expected for their Master System console. To the arcades now, and a new one-on-one fighting game is making a few waves. Capcom's Street Fighter II seems to follow the basic conventions of the several fighting games before it, but has refined some of the innovations of its groundbreaking predecessor. Among these includes several playable characters, a block mechanic,
Attacks of varying strengths, although the pressure-sensitive attack buttons have been replaced with a 6-button layout to reduce wear and tear, and most interestingly, a unique and interesting special attack for each playable character. Naturally, everyone is waiting for the sequel, which shouldn't take too long to come out. To the PC now, and a puzzle game from Psygnosis appears to be challenging the idea of what a game is. Lemmings puts you in indirect control of the titular drones, who would otherwise mindlessly walk forward. Assigning a lemming a task such as building a bridge or physically blocking others from a dangerous path is the only way to stop them wandering into the jaws of certain death. Finally, for the first time, CDs are being used as a viable storage medium, and companies are taking full advantage of that. A new Mac exclusive from the up-and-coming developer Reactor Inc. features sophisticated animation, arcade elements, a full soundtrack, and even voice acting. Spaceship Warlock harkens back to the old pulp science fiction adventures, featuring alien worlds, evil overlords, and space pirates that look like Nick Fury. This will hopefully be the first of several projects for Joe Sparks and Mike Sinise. I'm Jimmy the Geek, live in 1991 for Player Attack.
Next request, you watch Player Attack. Continue to watch it or you will be exterminated! 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 Exterminated!
And that's about it for this edition of Player Attack. Next week we spend a little quality time with the Not Just For Kids Disney Infinity. Mike dips his toes in the murky waters of Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, and Jimmy the Geek strolls down memory lane and ends up in 1992. I'm Jessica Citizen, and this is Player Attack.